The Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Portland.
Cam Chancellor returns today for the Seattle Seahawks. He has ended his holdout. He has texted Stephen A. Smith because we all know that's the way to end a holdout. And he has said he's got to get back for his dog, Marshawn Lynch. This is a pretty ideal circumstance for Cam Chancellor to return to. After being the greedy jerk who's ruining our season for 2 games.
Now he's the savior.
The positive turn.
The Dan Le Batard Show, weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. on 910 ESPN Portland.
So back here at the Pilot House with Coach Reveno, and we're talking about a crazy Thursday. BYU goes up on the road, beats Gonzaga, has all the momentum, all the riders for BYU that'll travel in with them. Coach Dave Rose, everybody in the BYU postgame says, in order to validate this win, we have to go into Portland, into a tough home environment at the Chiles Center, and win. So they weren't underestimating you. They weren't doing anything. They come out, and the Pilots put together one of the best games of the year in front of a sold-out crowd, and probably one of the more fun games in Portland. And BYU, Coach, there's been some crazy ones over the last few years since they've joined the league, and I thought that one was one of the more fun college basketball games to be a part of.
It was a lot of fun. You know, we had a fun game in Provo there last year. We had a fun game there in Provo last year when we lost. You know, so it wasn't really fun. You know, it's sort of fun in terms of a fan perspective. Both teams run, both teams tape, and there was a bunch of possessions where they actually scored, and then we were scoring before. We were taking a shot and scoring a few times before 25 seconds we left the shot clock. So within 5 seconds, we were back the other way, and it was a fast-paced game. Real physical down in the trenches, a lot of rebounding, you know, fouls and non-calls were taking place, and for our guys to dig in like that, I think we can play better, you know, and I'm telling the guys today, I think we can play better, and we really needed to come back with a great performance, and that would have been a step in the right direction, but to come back with a great performance and get the win was really a boost to our confidence.
And those are the games you really, I mean, a lot of BYU fans in the house, obviously everywhere they go for football, basketball, just about any sport, baseball, they draw well because of their unique situation, their religious affiliation. They have a heavy presence, and so it wasn't a surprise that there was a lot of fans in and a lot of more BYU, but I'd say maybe it was a little oversaturated in terms of the commentary about BYU taking over the house, because there was a great student turnout. There was a great season ticket holder standout, and it seemed like just a great atmosphere for college basketball. That was about 50-50.
It was hard for me to tell, and that's a good sign. You know, it's to be honest, the noise level, I'd say we had the advantage, and I think I'd be proud to say our team had something to do with that a lot of times. And I'll be honest, like, I think sometimes when the BYU fans, you know, whatever the percentage is, the BYU fans come and they come in force and they want to celebrate BYU. Our fans kind of pick up their game a little bit, you know, and I'm glad that we gave them something to cheer about. And I think I think our fans were maybe chomping at the bit to have something to cheer about. Even during the introductions, you know, they're great though, because they, you know, they're sort of the BYU players get their strong support, and our fans don't want to let our guys down. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the students coming out. I didn't notice it, but I really enjoyed hearing the "This is our house" chant, you know, and stuff like that late in the game when I saw it later on video. It was great. It was a fun environment. Our guys liked it. And it was just, like you say, a good college atmosphere. And to all the BYU fans that might be listening, you're welcome to come back and watch us play any other time too. It'd be great to have you.
Absolutely. We got a few comments to get to, a few questions already submitted, but one from David Blair, longtime season ticket holder, Pilot Club member, and he just said, you know, just want to comment on the great win. Our fans, maybe they were outnumbered, but to our point, just as noisy and as enthusiastic. Go Pilots, great game. And I thought that was a sentiment all the way throughout. And you don't like to say one game's more important than the next. That's obviously, it's game by game. But you kind of felt going into that game, you know, the season could go in a couple different directions. And I know there were some team meetings and everything after Thursday. What was kind of the message going into Saturday to get everybody on track?
It was a complicated message, but it all probably boiled down to we've got to play a certain way. We've got to play with a certain focus and toughness and do the things that we're capable of. And collectively, individually, you know, however you want to look at it, but it comes down to doing your job and making the hard plays, not just once in a while, not just on occasion. The San Diego game, watching it was really unique and almost dumbfounding sometimes, where we were playing hard and scrambling but making really bonehead plays. You know, 2 guys running at a not-so-good shooter to leave a really good shooter open. And we had done some of that against Gonzaga and whatnot, where we just didn't have the discipline of the scout to follow through on the scouting report. Lack of focus at times on terms of our rules, and so we had 2 video sessions Friday that, like you referenced, and one was just to go over the game and pretty much just showed them all the stuff they know, and then that had went wrong, and then they had a team meeting where they talked about some stuff that I'm not 100% privy to, but I think it was just clearing the air and making sure that they knew it was their team, and that they wanted to do better than they've been doing, and then the second thing, Coach Jackson did a great job with the scouting report, and we were fortunate. We were unfortunate in the fact that the bounce back game that we needed so desperately badly, not to overstate it, but we needed badly, was BYU, who's playing very good basketball and a very tough team. But we were a little bit fortunate in that there is some unique characteristics about distinct players that you can scout to. So Collinsworth, we were going to let shoot, and play off them and go under on-ball screens. They're bigs, we were going to play a certain way. Emery and 1 and 4, Emery and what's his name? Fisher, thank you. Those guys, because I was just going by numbers on Friday, and those guys we were going to just stay with, put Alec and Bryce on those guys and just stay with them and not help on 5. 5 gets Collinsworth gets all the triple doubles because of the assists and everything and rebounds. He plays like a guy against his little brother, where he just kind of drives at him, throws it up, and goes and gets it. And so the scouting report, my point being, the scouting report was very specific, and we were able to condense the information in a really specific way that the players were able to make actionable on Saturday. And to their credit, they did a fantastic job. And so that was a good part about having to play BYU. I told the guys, and I said, look, I don't sleep well when we don't play a certain way, and come hell or high water, I'm sleeping well Saturday night. And I told them, I said, we're going to play a certain way, and we may not win. They may beat us, but we're going to play a certain way. And it's pretty exciting that when we did that, the results followed.
Yeah, unbelievable game. Great response by the Pilots. We have a lot of questions about some individual players, and I know we're going to get some phone calls as people are really excited about that win over BYU. And again, if you got a phone call question for us for Coach Rev, give us a call at 503-542-0910. We're going to take our first break, but we got a lot more with Coach Reveneau here at the Pilot House. You're listening to Portland Pilots Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
Mom, Dad, we need to talk. I know college will be expensive, but the Oregon College Savings Plan can help. Did you know you could save on your taxes while you save for my college?
Any earnings and qualified withdrawals are tax-free.
You can even get a state tax deduction.
Sweet!
Are you saving for college? It helps if you have a plan. With the Oregon College Savings Plan, you can get an Oregon State income tax deduction of over $4,500 for 2015. Plus, when you use the money for qualified college expenses, any earnings are both state and federal tax-free. So for more information, go to OregonCollegeSavings.com.
Now, about my allowance.
The plan is administered by the state of Oregon. Consider the investment objectives, risks, and expenses before investing in the plan. Go to OregonCollegeSavings.com for a disclosure booklet and read it carefully. Investments in the plan are not guaranteed, and there is the risk of investment loss. Non-qualified withdrawals may be subject to taxes and penalties. State tax advantages subject to recapture provisions. Consult your tax advisor.
It's coming fast. August 12th through the 14th, the 2016 Bi-Mart Willamette Country Music Festival, featuring Florida Georgia Line, Miranda Lambert, and Brantley Gilbert. Over 20 artists, music, family, memories. Go to BWCMF.com before it's too late. The Bi-Mart Willamette Country Music Festival. Save even more with discounted GA tickets at Bi-Mart.
Think you know pro football?
What game are you most confident of winning?
In the Change Realty NFL Challenge, our fan hosts and the fan baby are ready to pick every game against each other. And you, the mighty fan listener.
What's up, mustache?
Want to play? Just go to 1080thefan.com and click on the NFL Challenge banner. The Change Realty NFL Challenge, presented by Change Realty, home of the 1% listing fee. Sign up now at 1080thefan.com.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner!
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Back here on campus at the Pilot House with Coach Reveneau. And, Coach, great win on Saturday. We'll talk a lot about that. We talked a little bit about Thursday's loss to San Diego, and I know that was a point of frustration for everybody involved with that. And it seemed to me like, good start. You get out to a 10-point lead. You think you got it under control. It kind of started going the other way. San Diego has some players that can get going due to Sanadze. We've seen him do that before where he gets going. And sometimes it felt like maybe some players were, once you got behind, trying a little too hard to get it all back in one swoop. What was your have you went back and looked at the video, and I'm sure you didn't spend a ton of time on it, but as you went back and looked, what were your kind of impressions coming out of Thursday's game?
I actually spent a fair amount of time on the video because, the patient was on life support. Felt like the old TV show House, trying to figure out the actual melody or the ailment a little better. But so I watched the game, and what was. I think you're right. I think guys were pressing. San Diego is a tough team to prepare for because they're in flux. They're a new coach. They got some talented players. They've actually, frankly, been underachieving a little bit. But a team, like you say, that we should have, expected and to perform better and to come away with the win. And I think guys did start pressing. And the problem was when we start pressing right now, our team identity, we don't start pressing in terms of let's get a stop. When what's hitting the fan, we don't have enough guys right now stepping up and digging in and getting stops on defense or getting that extra rebound or getting that loose ball, controlling those things that you can handle, controlling those things that aren't about making shots or not about beating your guy off the dribble and making those kinds of plays. Those are the things that we've got to keep re-emphasizing that we try to do. And San Diego shot an unbelievable percentage against us. The number of plays where we broke down and we gave them layups off their actions. One of the few teams in the league right now that's really scoring off their actions versus breaking people down individually, and we let them get to what they did do the best. And so it was that was the most telling thing there, is just that when we start pressing, it doesn't need to. It can't. It's hard. It's a very rare player that can just make it about their scoring, and we can't have. We got to make it about the defense and getting stops.
Go to our first phone call. We've got Pedro from Southern California on the line. Pedro, good to hear from you again. What do you got for Coach?
Coach Rev, how are you guys tonight?
Great.
Good, thanks.
Well, hey, I was telling Jason earlier, you need to keep the noise down from all that celebrating up there. We can hear you down here in Los Angeles. But, congrats on a wonderful win. It was wonderful. Even though I have two regrets, though. I wasn't able to see it or hear it, but I did follow it on Twitter. And secondly, I wasn't able to hear any of the BYU fans afterwards. I wanted to hear their perspective on the game. And somebody told me they all headed for their RVs and headed back to Utah after the game. So they didn't stick around.
No, they, what's interesting in those situations is I was as fired up as anyone, but there's been a lot of things said lately in college basketball about handshake lines, and there was the Monmouth game I think it was that game back east where something happened afterwards, and and the students, appreciate the good student crowd. They stormed the court a little bit. It was kind of a mini court storm, and it was pretty harmless. The BYU coaches and players were very gracious. Our coaching staff was going through this coaching line, and they were very. They had given it their all, and you could tell they were visibly disappointed, but at the same time they were very polite about the whole thing, and no sour grapes or anything. And I apologize for the fact that our players weren't weren't available to shake hands, and that they can go ahead and they didn't have to stick around to wait for them. And
well, you're right. They kind of lost their minds. But it's funny. I was following the game on Twitter. You could just feel the momentum building. I'd catch some highlights from the video department, catch some big shots. And as the game went on, you could just feel it building. But without having seen it, I can almost just say off the top of my head, you probably had great perimeter defense. Forced them to miss some shots, got the rebounds, and just filled the lanes and ran the court like the Pilots like to do. So I'm sure there was some of that going on.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Our game plan's not too complicated. Defensively it'll sort of, change, but that involves getting their non-primary scorers, their primary players to not take their favorite shots. Get them to their secondary or tertiary plays and things they like to do, and get other players to have to step up. In some games we've been bitten by that when a guy like Dirksen at USF steps up or something like that, but and we've got to be prepared for that. But for the most part, when we defend and can get out and run, we're pretty darn good.
Well, I'm really happy for you, but the San Diego game was not the Pilots, let's put it this way. It wasn't their best effort of the year, but I think they really learned from it. And I saw, on the highlights of your pre-game and post-game talk, I think you had those guys ready to run through a wall, just run off the cliffs at the Bluffs for that game. It was great. Yeah, no, there was, the time will tell. We gotta confirm that we learned our lesson. We've got to confirm that that we didn't. It wasn't just something that was a one-game spike because we got beat on Thursday, that we came out with the right approach. And I'll be honest, I told the guys this last Tuesday, a week ago tomorrow. I told our guys, I said, great game days don't win games. I said great game weeks. We had a bad game week last week, and so I was challenging the guys today to have a better Monday than we had last Monday. And I got into the guys on Tuesday last week, and I said, and then tomorrow I'm going to make sure that we're focused and we're getting the most. Tuesday's our most important practice day, and we have to make sure we're dialed in. Well, last thing I have to say, I know you have a lot of folks waiting to get on and online too, but the other little problem, the Pilots have shown they can play at a very high level. The bar's been raised, and keep it there. I really believe they're going to keep it there, and I'm for sure you're going to have them keep it there. So, congrats on the win, and it's good talking to you guys. And I just want to give a shout out to my pal Larry over in the Hood River Valley.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure we'll hear from Larry. Thanks, right. Pedro. Good chatting with you.
Hey, as always. Bye-bye, you guys.
All right, we'll take another break. We come back, a lot more questions to get to for Coach Revenue coming off the big win over BYU. Upcoming games on the road at Pacific and St. Mary's. 503-542-0910. Phone lines open if you want to give us a call. You're listening to the Portland Pilots Coaches Show with Coach Revenue right here on 910 ESPN Portland.
U.S. Bank provides custom solutions to help you grow your business. Whether you've just started in a friend's apartment.
What do you mean there's no printer?
Or opened your first office.
We have a printer.
Or maybe you've opened a new location.
We have so many printers.
You'll have a business banker there to guide you every step of the way. Visit your local U.S. Bank branch or usbank.com/business. Credit products are subject to normal credit approval and program guidelines. Some restrictions and fees may apply. See your banker for details. Deposit products offered by U.S. Bank, National Association, member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Mike and Mike in the morning on ESPN Portland.
When you break it down, you can attribute it to players with LeBron as a reason why, but there are those that won't. There are those that say you're in the finals, you do enough to win. When last year, let me tell you, if he'd have pulled that one off against Golden State minus Love and Kyrie, that would have been unbelievable. Yeah. But people look at the big picture and say he's 2-4, and Michael Jordan is 6-0, and I think that happens to be true.
Mike and Mike in the morning, weekdays 3 to 7 a.m. on 910 ESPN Portland.
Some things you can't control, like going in for seconds a third time.
Good.
Or the fact that all 6 kinds of Meemaw's cookies are so delicious. Or the storm that blows in right before your long drive home. But you can be sure your tires have enough traction to get you where you're going, no matter what Mother Nature has in store. At Les Schwab, we have the tires you need, backed by our best tire value promise. That should settle your stomach, at least until you break into those leftovers.
Oh boy.
Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
Only 0.5% of all high school student athletes play basketball in college. But all 100% of them become adults. That's why playing basketball on their high school team is so important. High school athletes learn life lessons that help them grow up. Lessons that can't be taught in the classroom and often aren't taught at home. This message presented by the Oregon School Activities Association and the Oregon Athletic Directors Association.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Jason Breaux.
Welcome back here to the Pilot House. Jason Breaux with Coach Eric Reveneau coming off the big win over BYU. Upcoming games at Pacific and St. Mary's. We've got a couple questions regarding the upcoming games. One from Twitter, Larry Ellifritz. Great job coaching this Saturday. Coach, Jazz or Al subs was great at the end of the game. What will it take to get a win at Pacific?
The same sort of, focus on the tough plays. By the tough plays, I mean the rotation to block off, the getting matched up in transition. We've had too many plays lately where we got 5 guys back and we leave one guy unmarked. And things like that. And we started putting that together, and also sticking to scout report. Pacific has got some big guys back. They're sort of slowly rebuilding their roster. It's a little bit unlike BYU, which is very consistent and solid. Pacific is a program in flux, but in no way. I heard someone earlier in the year said they're turning into a dumpster fire. I said no. They got Coach Burns, the interim coach there now, has got them organized, and he's got them playing hard, and so they're a tough game for us. We haven't played well there the last couple of years, and we got to fix that on Thursday, and really having the focus this week in practice is key.
Larry also had a follow-up question, and I can answer that. Will Thursday's game be on at the Pilot House? It will be. That's a W.TV game. We'll bring the screen down here and stream that game live for all the fans right here in the Pilot House. Saturday's game, 8 p.m. tip-off against St. Mary's, will also be available here in the Pilot House for watch parties or Buffalo Wild Wings. That game will be on Root Sports Northwest. Sticking along with that theme about momentum from the BYU game, we've got superfan Frank here in attendance with us. Thanks for coming out, Frank. And he's just saying, not specific to BYU, but in general, how do we take the energy into the next couple games and through the rest of the season from what we saw Saturday?
I think it's really having focus on defending and rebounding and doing the things that we control. DeMarcus has been a good example of that in terms of his energy, rebounding the ball. He's our leading perimeter player, rebounding per minute by a large margin. He's doing a much better job defending, and lo and behold, he's making some shots. We got guys that are capable of making some shots. We need to focus on the other things where we're not letting a team like San Diego shoot 60% against us. And just the offense will come. I think we've shown that. We'll have some dry spells and struggles, but we've got to find a collective defensive intensity, and I think just focusing on that, and Jarrell's really improving lately. Over the weekend, he's done a nice job being physical. He's not the most physical player naturally, but being physical and getting, BYU game was a very physical game, and he really stepped up. So those kinds of plays and those kinds of things are really what's going to keep the momentum going, the focus. It's really something that needs to become part of our DNA, and I'm hoping that the combination of our lessons on Thursdays and our rewards on Saturday will help us raise our collective standards of what it needs to take, both in our preparation and our performance.
Go back to the phone lines. Another familiar caller, Ed from Camas, on the line. And Ed, good. Before we get to your question, I need to ask: did you storm the court on Saturday, Ed?
Yes, I did, Jason.
I thought we saw you out there. Okay, go ahead with your question.
Well, if Buzz wouldn't turn off the scoreboard so soon, we could get the score behind us too.
Sorry, we didn't get your selfie available there. We'll work on that next time.
Jason, we can get someone to Photoshop that for you.
We can do that.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you, and maybe I just didn't notice, but it seemed like the coaching staff in total didn't come out until just a couple minutes before tip-off. Was that kind of a change, or did I just misinterpret that? And it didn't look like the coaching staff was out before the game, working with the players.
No, we come out together, and I joked with Coach Rose. It got away from us this game. I actually remember and noticed that we got out there as a coaching staff the last time. We got out there a little bit late, very observant of you, and I came up to Coach Rose, and I apologized because I told him I didn't want to be pulling a Randy Bennett. But in our league, and like Few says he goes, we call that pulling a Randy Bennett. If you come out like he comes out like after the horn sounded, and the referees are waiting to shake hands, the other coach is waiting in. I don't take it personally anymore. My favorite thing, he's really got his game face on. Doesn't like to chat, so I like to try to chat him up and throw him off a little bit. But so I didn't want to do that to Coach Rose, who's a good guy and stuff. I didn't mean to come out late. I normally try to come out be out there with 2 minutes left and stuff. So we'll see. The interesting thing there with Coach Rose is I asked him. He was watching his team warm up, and I asked him. I said, can you tell? I said, you don't have to tell me, but can you tell by looking at your team if they're ready to play or not? And he said, with this group, I can. Because some groups it's hard. Like our group runs at a pretty good pace in warm-ups and has a good energy. Last year's group was much more up and down, and last year's group didn't have a strong correlation between their warm-ups and their performance, and that can be frustrating. This group is always but each group has its own kind of feel. Some groups are lighter-hearted, some groups are intense. I think our group is still finding it, but he said that he could tell with his group, and he said his group was more focused on the road sometimes. But it was interesting. So there is a lot of coaches are sitting there. That's the worst time of the day for me on a game day. Is that time right before we're just ready to go.
Hey, thanks, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Good to see you. Hope to see you back out at the Child Center, and I think we'll see you on the road for a couple games too. Looking forward to that. Continuing with the question submissions here. This one from awesome. Thanks, Ed. This one submitted via PortlandPilots.com/AskCoachRev. And again, Coach, great BYU win. Thank you for that. This is Bill in Portland. Do you think the three-point shooting of Tyson on Saturday seems a little under-recognized as what he's provided over the season is a question, but I doubt its importance escapes the staff. Playing time-wise, how do you manage a player with that kind of behind-the-arc skill?
What DeMarcus has done to really help me manage his playing time is do the other things, like his intangibles. The fact that he's our leading rebounder of all the perimeter players right now per minute, just sort of begs to play him more, and then you throw in the potential to get hot from the perimeter. It really is great. And then he's screening and doing some stuff. Jason Todd adds a little more physicality defensively and can do some things. Jazz Johnson is giving us some really good competitive minutes defensively. He can get up and guard a quick on-ball defender. So the shooting, it's kind of hard. When Bryce was shooting it and going to come back, and Alec has been shooting it, it's kind of hard to earn minutes just as a shooter with this team because we can score the ball, but when we're not rebounding, not defending, that's how you kind of can get the coaching staff's notice. And DeMarcus is kind of, getting our attention by playing both ends of the ball, both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And so you're exactly right that he's one that you look at and go, boy, he could use some more minutes. And then it's just a matter of figuring out where they come from. We could go small some and put Jason at the 4 and get more wing minutes that way, and maybe even Gabe at the 5 and do some things. But just physically, we need to have some sort of a defensive presence inside. So we're always constantly looking at that.
Well, and I thought DeMarcus, the shooting is phenomenal, and he hit some really big clutch shots throughout that game, both in the first half and then more importantly down the stretch in the second half.
Our zone offense in the clutch there? Pass it around. And
hoist it, baby.
They were actually moving the ball very well, and they did well. But, it's funny because I chuckle because that's it looks like you don't know what you're doing when you it doesn't work like that, but you got good shooters like that. They moved the defense a couple times, and he got the look he wanted. It's fantastic.
Well, and I think going back and rewatching that game, one of the things that maybe didn't jump out to me at first until I rewatched it was the job that he did on Kyle Collinsworth, who's maybe the most dynamic perimeter player in the conference in terms of ability to create, drive, get to the rim. And, DeMarcus forced a couple turnovers, got up in him, used his length that kept him in front. Didn't rack up a ton of steals necessarily, but really made it hard. And Collinsworth finished the game 4 for 17, really struggled for his perspective. And a lot of that was with DeMarcus on him.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So, because, Alec with foul trouble, and, we chose to keep, and we chose to put Alec on one of the shooters, the quick shooters, and they run actions. And, boy, they sprint off actions. We can learn from that as well. They're out-of-bounds plays and whatnot, just really hard sprinting cuts. And so DeMarcus was matched with Collinsworth. And like I say, Collinsworth just a big guard that as you point out, is really clever at getting the rim. You're like, how's he do that?
He's not going to shoot it very much unless he has to, but he finds a way.
He was trying to shoot it because we were so obvious in what we were doing, and he wanted to shoot it, and it just wasn't really working for him.
All right, we'll take another break. We want to hit on having the 20-year anniversary of the 1996 team back. They had a blast, got to witness a great game. Good to have those guys back. We'll touch on that, continue to talk about BYU. Questions still coming in to the program, so we're excited. We'll try to get to them all. Again, give us a call at 503-542-0910 or go online, portlandpilots.com/askcoachrev and submit a question. You're listening to the Portland Pilots Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
The Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Portland.
Let's just have Spike Lee ask his question of Coach K and get Coach K to respond however it is Coach K would like to respond.
Coach K, what's up? This is Spike Lee. What's happening? Coach, could you arrange me having 2 seats when you guys play University of North Carolina Tar Heels?
Yeah, and he wants front row, courtside.
At least he has for an easy game.
He's got to be a donor to our program. And, yeah, we can arrange that. He can't be wearing North Carolina stuff, though.
Okay, but you can arrange it for how much, Coach?
No, it's just friendship. I'll charge you guys. I'll charge Dan. But
all right, get that out of here.
Wait, now, hold on a second. How much for Dan?
Well, Dan's doing so many shows. Every time you look, you either hear his voice or see his face. So,
overexposed.
He's a little bit overexposed. But,
The Dan Le Batard Show, weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. on 910 ESPN Portland.
What if there were a place where you could become your best self? To become not just what you want to be, but who you want to be. At University of Portland, we inspire innovators, entrepreneurs, leaders, difference makers, people with the smarts to succeed and the heart to know what success really means. University of Portland. Rise.
B-Dubs presents B-Dubbing.
This is it, folks. Everyone's on the edge of their
stools for Appy Hour at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Here's the snap. He drops back.
For great deals.
And throws.
A domestic draft.
Smith snags.
$4 shareables like street tacos and Southwest loaded chips.
What a throw. What a catch. What a...
Appy Hour.
Experience Appy Hour at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Participation and offers vary. See a participating location for details. Void where prohibited.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Welcome back here at the Pilot House with Coach Reveneau. And, Coach, a couple points to hit on, as we talk about that exciting 84-81 win over BYU. But as part of that, not to be forgotten, was bringing back last weekend members of that 1996 Portland Pilots NCAA tournament team, last team to go to the NCAA tournament, and those guys had a blast. Eight guys from the team, assistant Coach Clark Burke, who we ran into down in Corpus Christi, came back, and they were amazed when they came in here to the Pilot House. They were amazed when they went to the Beauchamp Rec Center. I know they had a chance to talk with you and the team at shoot-around in the morning, and brought a little bit of good luck with them as well. But how nice is it just to kind of touch base with the history of the program and have those guys come in and appreciate where the program is?
Well, I think they inspired us to get the win. They want to have these guys back, check out their old program, and they were proud of it too. They had some good memories, and We chatted a little bit. It's really great. I think it's really good for our guys to see the connection with the past and the, as we're surrounded by college students here eating their dinner, college kids don't necessarily have things in perspective, but where do you want to see yourself in so many years, or where, how are you going to look back on this place and this opportunity? I've never met a college basketball player that did not look back fondly on his career and with almost more appreciation than they had when they were a player. And I think it's safe to say we are all like that, in college. And so we start sounding like old men when we were telling them, but to hear it from different angles where they talk about like how great this was, how great that was. And what's also always interesting when you get those alumni groups together is how strong the relationships are. And even when they haven't seen guys for a while, they're laughing and telling stories, and that bond that they had is rekindled really quick. And some guys are able to keep in connection and connected, but other times they're not. But when they get back together, those memories and those relationships, and that's what you have on teams, are special relationships. And the great teams, a team that has the ability to get to the NCAA tournament like they did, tends to have a little something special. And it's normally not just X's and O's and coaching or ability. Sometimes that extra team that makes the difference between a team that makes it and doesn't is sort of that connectedness where they can get over the humps and the adversity.
Yeah, and talking with a lot of those guys before the game and after the game, they got together Friday night right here at the Pilot House, sharing stories like you were talking about. And it was funny talking with assistant coach Clark Burke. He's like, they told some stories I didn't know about 20 years ago, but they had a great time, and they were a tight-knit team. A lot of similarities, actually, with that team when you go back and look statistically, talk with the guys. Very balanced team. They had 10 guys that played 10 or 12 minutes. Clark Burke said, they were unselfish. They really went after it. They struggled a little bit through conference play. They were 7-7 going into the conference tournament and made a run. They had it going right at the end, and a lot of the guys were saying they could see that after the game. They thought this team kind of had that potential that they did, where they kind of caught it, they got it at the right time, and they made a run. So it was great to have those guys back, and great to have them be a part of the program and see a great game. Going back to the Ask Coach Rev questions from Tim in Camas, just a great game to witness. Tim says, my observation was it was a breakout and defining game for the team leaders, Allen, Bryce. Not only that, but saw the maturation of Colin Russell, a young guy to be specific. Can you elaborate on the part of the game, and can you concur a lot of the players may have found their role on Saturday?
Great observations, and I think the leadership point is right on point. They've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes at a really high level for us, and I met with both Alec and Bryce on Friday, and we talked about things and just sort of got our hands around some of the issues, and it was really, really quality conversation. And in terms of guys finding their roles, I think we're getting there. I think the post players in particular, the fives and somewhat the fours. The fours are a little farther along in terms of the way Jarrell and Gabe are playing right now, in terms of scoring the ball is important, but also just being a little bit more playmakers from that position. Jarrell's got a knack for that. Gabe does too. And taking advantage of mismatches and screening and just being unpredictable. In this day of synergy video and scouting and whatnot, the ability to make plays and just improvise out of motion is very powerful when you can do it well. And our four men are key for that. Our fives need to anchor us and give us some stability around the rim, both offensively and defensively. And I think they understand that, and other guys working with them. So, and Colin has come along well. BYU's a tough team for a big guy to play against. They're very, although they're not their headliners per se, they are sort of the nuts and bolts of the outfit and do a lot of the heavy lifting, I would say.
All right. Well, again, if you have questions for Coach Rev, give us a call, 503-542-0910, or visit portlandpilots.com/AskCoachRev, Twitter, #AskCoachRev. Send us your questions. We've got about 20 minutes left with Coach, and we'll look forward to the Pacific St. Mary's game this week. A few more questions to get to. You're listening to the Portland Pilots Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
What if there were a place where you could become your best self? To become not just what you want to be, but who you want to be. At University of Portland, we inspire innovators, entrepreneurs, leaders, difference makers, people with the smarts to succeed, and the heart to know what success really means. University of Portland. Rise.
Oregon, the countdown has begun. And the Bi-Mart Cape Blanco Country Music Festival is going to be huge. Jason Aldean, Kenny Chesney, Brantley Gilbert, over 20 smoking hot performances. But the clock is ticking. Go to cbcnf.com. Experience the summer of a lifetime. Save even more with discounted GA tickets at Bi-Mart. Don't miss it.
Honey, why does the doorbell ring when I turn on the kitchen lights?
I rewired that. It should work now.
No, it doesn't.
Don't rely on short-term fixes that need long-term solutions. A U.S. Bank home equity line of credit may help turn the equity in your home into lasting improvements. Visit a U.S. Bank branch, usbank.com/dreambig, or call 800-209-BANK.
Home sweet normal home.
Some restrictions may apply, subject to credit approval. Mortgage and home equity products offered through U.S. Bank, National Association, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
Each weekday, the Coors Light Ticket Locker gives you a chance to win tickets to your favorite sporting events and concerts.
Excellent!
You can do it on your phone. Listen for the code word at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. and text it to 55305 when the Ticket Locker opens at 4 with Isaac and Sue. Message and data rates apply.
Tell you what, this is unprecedented.
Powered by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Refreshing fan listeners with tickets every day. More info at 1080thefan.
55305.com.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Jason Bro.
Back here at the Pilot House with Coach Reveneau. A couple more questions submitted from Jay in 503. Ask Coach Rev, Coach, in the NBA, stars get more calls from refs than other players. My untrained eye doesn't see it in NCAA hoops. Do you see it?
No, I don't. I think our officials are pretty even-handed in that. And even I think nowadays, like I was talking about with the video and scouting, I think even with high-volume players, they tend to watch the video and they know certain players are looking to get certain fouls and they won't fall for that trick as much. And so, even Alec, who does a great job of drawing contact, you got to be careful not to over try to create. They kind of are on to that, and other coaches will send in the video and say, hey, this guy's begging call, and I'll yell about it, and I'll send in video of a guy who, a post player that flops in the post or whatever and stuff. So, league is just real competitive that, and we kind of keep everybody honest. But, I don't see it. I think if you play the right way and you do things the right way, I think those guys tend to get calls. This year, the emphasis of not using your hands, if you're really showing them your hands and moving your feet, you make it easy for officials not to give you the benefit of the call. If you're rebounding with your hands up and there's contact, you won't get a call. If your hands are down and you're holding and pushing, and even if two guys are grabbing each other, it's hard, it's complicated because this year we've had better crews, I think, and that's been good. It's a lot better. They still miss calls, but the quality of the crews, with the reorganization of some officiating in our conference has really been an improved officiating. So it's interesting, but it's try not to focus on it.
Another question submitted this from Mike in Eugene. How challenging, Coach, is it to coach up a team's confidence and get them to believe, maybe versus tactics or strategy?
I think it's a. If I was good in PowerPoint, I could probably make a neat little slide about
TED Talk.
TED Talk about relationship between tactics and X's and O's and confidence, because the way the coach best builds confidence is by putting players in position to be successful. If I can get a player some shots he can make, that'll help his confidence. And also the other thing that's challenging is you try to celebrate the roles that people don't notice. So if Ray sets a great screen, I've got to celebrate that a little bit and get excited about that, because maybe a lot of people won't, and maybe he won't, because maybe he's wants to score a little bit. And so celebrating their roles, but it's a challenge to try to get their confidence. We've had that before with shooters in the past that aren't making shots. You get them a wide open shot and they miss it. You can laugh it off and say whatever you want, like, oh, you'll make the next one. But if they don't, they got to see the ball going through the hoop at some point to help their confidence. And it's something that you work on and be positive, but it all comes down to I think confidence is something you earn through hard work and preparation, and then it's nice when that hard work and preparation meets an opportunity and you're successful, because that really builds the confidence.
You mentioned Ray Moreno, the junior college transfer from New Mexico, JC. Picked up 8 rebounds in 22 minutes, used his big physical body, hit a little free throw line jumper, which we haven't seen from him, but one of the things we've talked about consistently throughout the year is kind of finding a little bit more balance in terms of interior versus exterior play, and maybe that doesn't always come in the scoring column, to your point earlier. I thought Colin Russell comes off the bench, gets 5 rebounds, battling against some big, mature, physical big guys from BYU. I thought the big guys held their own.
They definitely did. They had to. It was a physical game, and Gabe and Jarrell, that play where Gabe turned the corner and tried to dunk it, and then we get an offensive rebound. And there was another play where, I don't know if you remember the play where Phil rotated over and tried to block a shot. I think it was Collinsworth. Collinsworth got deeper than you wanted to. And Phil came over, made him miss. Gabe came crashing in for the rebound, and the BYU big came up with him and kind of spiked it down in front of their bench. It was late in the game. It was just a battle for the board, and ultimately I think they might have been knocked. We came up with it, I think, but that was the kind of play where Gito Koch on Thursday night was getting a tip dunk.
Yep.
And so not everything has to be pretty. It's not going to be. There was a breakdown for Collinsworth to get to a higher percentage shot than you want, but Phillip made a nice play to rotate over and make him miss, and then Gabe came down and battled for the rebound, and as a group we what we call gang rebounding, and we're able to do that. And Ray and Phil and Colin do a good job of doing that, of just gang, of providing some beef in there. And even against San Diego, I was watching that tape again. Gito had his hands full with Ray. When Ray was in there, just trying to keep him off the glass and physically turning and pushing him and holding him, and it was real physical. So when you have someone occupying a rebounder like that, that's important.
Do you want to throw it into the post a little more and maybe get some guys some more looks down there? Is that a talking point, or how are you guys managing kind of that interior offense?
It's definitely something that we need to establish more of, and it's easy to get it in there to positions that not necessarily are ideal. We have really pretty specific rules on where and when to throw it in and what angles, and the post can't get anxious when the opportunity's not there. It's really about getting the inside on the same page as the outside, and the inside knowing when that opportunity is. A lot of it has to do with some penetration and drop situations we can do a better job of, pick and roll situations, some things like that. But yeah, we need to keep trying to establish it. One of the things that's been nice lately is we're getting to the free throw line more. Bryce is getting to the line more, not just Alec, and Jarrell's back getting to the line a little bit, and that's important for us. So we're in league play, we're getting more points from the free throw line, a little better from 2, and still doing well from 3.
And you mentioned Bryce, and the good thing about Bryce is maybe he's not shooting the ball as well from the perimeter, from the three-point line, just 3 for 12, but he has a couple 20-point games because he's using his size, he's using his ability, getting that mid-range going and being very aggressive. The other one, Jarrell Marshall, you mentioned, he had some big plays on Saturday. The dunk going down the baseline late in the game that really ignited the Pilots crowd. Early in the game, hit a couple three-pointers, got to cook to the free throw line. Maybe you kind of feel like he might be on the verge of figuring it out a little bit more. It's a tough transition from JC to D1 ball. He's got a little more to show, doesn't he?
I think so. I think, lately, there was a stretch there where he was pressing a little bit, and I felt like he wasn't really playing the right way necessary for him to be successful. Last few games, I felt like he's really playing the right way in terms of making the right decisions. You may make the right decision, and the outcome might not be ideal, but if, that's where the coaches, you talk about confidence, we can remind them that, hey, that was the right play. You drove in there, you were on balance, you pump faked, you shot, you shot your shot. It just didn't drop. Let's just keep working on that, and that's a good shot for you. Playing like Jazz at the end of the half, he drove in there and shot it left-handed over 3 guys. And that's not a good shot. Still a freshman, but Jarrell's making a play. Jazz is doing great too. because he makes more good plays.
All right, we'll take our final break. When we come back, we'll take a look ahead to this week's games. A couple big road games against Pacific, tied in the standings with the Pilots, and St. Mary's at the top of the standings. You're listening to the Portland Pilots Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
Providence Wellness Watch from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute on PlaySmart heart screenings for young people.
Most kids' hearts are healthy, thank goodness, but a small number of kids will have hidden heart defects that you wouldn't know about unless you did testing. PlaySmart is a free screening program for kids ages 12 through 18. We perform a blood pressure measurement, an electrocardiogram. It takes less than 10 minutes, painless, non-invasive, and it gives cardiologists a lot of information so that we can assess risk. Hidden heart defects are not common, but we want to know about them. All kids can be at risk, and therefore we want to give all kids the opportunity to have a free screening. We want our kids to stay active throughout the school year and throughout the summer, so now's a great time to get screened and to learn more about your heart.
To learn more about Providence Heart and Vascular Institute's PlaySmart screenings for kids ages 12 to 18, visit playsmartgetscreened.org.
Rosillo and Cannell on ESPN Portland.
You look at the last couple years, Kobe's played 35 in 6 games. Derrick Rose has played 51 in 10 games. I'm going to say Kobe because I think he's tougher. I just have so little confidence in his ability to play 50 games. I just don't have any ability.
It's dumb, but I agree because I know one guy wants to play as many games as he possibly can. I think the other guy every now and then is like, you know what, I'm good.
Rosillo and Cannell, weekdays 10 to 1 on 910 ESPN Portland.
Some things you can't control, like that epic traffic in the mall parking lot. Or the fussy triplets waiting behind you at the only register. Or the wet rock-filled shortcut you take home that leads to this. A flat tire. But you're not worried. Your Les Schwab tires are backed by their best tire value promise. So you'll get free flat repairs, free pre-trip safety checks, equal value replacements, and more for the life of your tires. Even the triplets would appreciate that. Les Schwab tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Back here at the Pilot House on the University of Portland campus, we'll take a quick look at the WCC standings. At the top of the standings, the familiar faces, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, 6-1 records. BYU, after the loss here at Portland, falls to third place, 4-2. Pepperdine, 4-3. The Pilots and Pacific, who the Portland Pilots will go and face on Thursday, tied at 3-4 for fifth place in the standings. San Francisco 3-5 along with Santa Clara. LMU 2-5 in ninth. San Diego 1-5. And Coach, big road trip. They're all big, but this is one. Pacific's a tough place to play. They're a team that has some momentum. As we mentioned, they had some players suspended earlier in the year, didn't get many wins early. They've gotten a couple of them back, and right now, all of a sudden, they're right in the thick of the WCC race. What do you know about the Tigers, and what can we expect on Thursday?
Coach Pfaff is working on the scouting report, and today we went over some of the ways they cover some actions. Also, we reviewed some of their actions, just the general framework of things they like to do that can hurt you, and so we were able to go over those and just begin, working on some things that are specific while we're trying to clean up our defensive rules, and talked a little bit about their personnel, but they're playing like 10 guys over 15 minutes, and they got new guys coming in, and they're doing well, and in terms of battling through the adversity that they've had, and they're a tough team to play, and so we really got to make sure we're ready to go.
Yeah, you talk about that, a team kind of that has their back against the wall. I mentioned an experienced coach filling in for Coach Verlin. Mike Burns has done a nice job, and sometimes those are the most dangerous teams that maybe feel they have nothing to lose. They're not going to be a part of postseason play due to self-imposed regulations as they're going through an NCAA review process right now. But sometimes those are the scariest games because it's just a team almost like a wounded dog with nothing to lose, huh?
Yeah, I mean, some LMU teams in recent years have been like that. Santa Clara, the year they didn't win a league game a few years back, they used to keep me up at night because they were pretty darn good. For a team that wasn't winning any games in league to play as hard as they did, I was always I tried to tell Coach Keeney at the time like how hard his team plays, and just having trouble being able to put it together. But this team's a lot like that. It's just they play really well, and they sort of find a way and scrap and claw. And from their standpoint, they've had some games where they've been up pretty good and then lost. And they're probably thinking they should have a few more wins. And so It's all a matter of perspective. Again, I think the step one is us focusing on ourselves and being ready to play the way we can.
That Thursday game, it's a 7 p.m. tip down in Stockton. It will be played live here on the W.TV, can be streamed on the W.TV, and then turn around and go for a late game Saturday at 8 p.m. tip-off in Moraga against the St. Mary's Gales, and they turn over their roster, but Randy Bennett has them back at the top of the conference standings, 15-2 overall record, 6-1 in the WCC, the lone loss at Pepperdine. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at much of St. Mary's or see them. We know they haven't gone on the road very much. They've taken 2 games outside of the Bay Area, so they're very familiar with their home court. What do you think about the Gales?
They're very, very good. With their 6 Australian players, no seniors, very offensively skilled and tough-minded defensively. They're all they got a stretch four named Evan Fitzner that can really pick and pop, and they've got some bigs, Australian guys that are good around the basket. They got a couple good guards, a couple transfers, and some sort of Australians and transfers, and it's a formula that's working for them. And they're not they won't dominate you with their athleticism, but in terms of their skill and toughness, we talk about skill, athleticism, and toughness being kind of the 3 key ingredients. They really are heavy on the skill and toughness, and they're a very good basketball team, and they're very good in Moraga, which, like you say, they don't leave much.
And they're efficient. You mentioned their offensive efficiency. They are one of the most efficient teams in the country in just about every metric. And then you look at what they're allowing on defense, and in terms of points allowed, they're the best in the conference. So they're kind of got it going on both ends. Difficult place to play on a Saturday night. Do you think, we got a question from Twitter, do you feel that their offense is different this year? Are they doing the same stuff that they've done in the past, or have they adjusted to the new personnel they have?
I think they're doing the same similar stuff, very basic on-ball screen stuff with very basic principles. It's a lesson in simplicity, really, and they go very slow. They play their best players a heavy amount of minutes, and they play very slow. They're also one of the slowest teams in the country, slowest team in the conference in terms of the pace of play. Our ability to get stops and run at them and dictate tempo will be very important. Make them adjust to us, because they're very good at making you defend and move the ball, and it just wait. It's like a shell drill is a defensive drill that's pretty common, and it's like going against a shell drill where they just kind of keep making you guard until you break down, and then they've got the ability at all 5 positions on the floor to make you pay. And one guy by himself might not be able to dominate you, but they sort of do a great job of finding the weakness collectively. And so I think that's been their philosophy. Their guards are very good at making great reads, and so that's what they've done with Delvedova and Holt and McConnell and the guards that they've had. So it's similar along those lines.
I know coaches focus game to game. Do you ever take a look at the WCC standings, see where it's at, maybe start to figure you're about midway through the conference, just take a look at the ladder as per a soccer term that they use, and just kind of, it's very bunched up right now. You got the 2 teams at the top and you got a couple at the bottom, but those 7 through 3 sheets are wide open for the taking, and I think that's kind of expected this year. We thought it was going to be open, and it has been.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. There's been some surprises both ways in league, and it's something that we just try to. We do keep a little bit of an eye on it, and just sort of, because we're trying to get ourselves in the best position and trying to get ourselves to win a position at some point to win a conference here, and then and definitely get as good a seed as possible for the conference tournament.
Portland going to try to take the momentum from that 84-80 win over BYU on Saturday onto the road again at Pacific, 7 p.m. Thursday. A game streamed live from video on the W.TV. Radio coverage begins at 6:30 here on 910 ESPN. And then Saturday, 8 p.m. tip-off, 7:30 coverage starts. That game will be televised on Root Sports. Coach, thank you so much. Jesse Osman back in the studio. Thanks for keeping the show going. You've been listening to the Portland Pilots Coaches Show right here on 910 ESPN Portland.
This has been Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau. Tonight's show was brought to you by employee-owned Bi-Mart, by your local Les Schwab Tire Center, the Oregon College Savings Plan, by Buffalo Wild Wings, U.S. Bank, by Safeway, and by PlaySmart Health Screenings from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. Join us for University of Portland basketball all season long on the home of the Pilots, 910 ESPN Portland. 10 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 ESPN